The difference between trust and belief. The first lesson we must understand on this journey of personal growth is the profound difference between trust and belief. At a glance, they may seem similar, almost interchangeable, but the truth is they come from two completely different places within us. Trust is directed outward, belief is directed inward. Trust involves handing a part of your stability or direction to someone else, while belief is the foundation you build beneath your own feet. And if your foundation is weak, even the most trustworthy person cannot carry your life for you. Many people move through the world unaware of this distinction. They trust their friends with their dreams, their partners with their sense of direction, their colleagues with their confidence, hoping someone else will provide the push, the clarity, the approval they feel they lack. But belief, real, personal belief, is something that no one can give you. It must be cultivated, shaped, earned, strengthened, and reinforced by your own decisions and your own experiences. This is why trust, although valuable, is always a risk, while belief in yourself is a requirement. Life has a way of teaching this distinction through experience. Nearly everyone has gone through a moment when they placed deep trust in someone, perhaps a friend, a partner, a mentor, and that trust was broken, not necessarily out of malice, but simply because people are human. They change, they get tired, they get overwhelmed, or they prioritize their own circumstances. I once spoke to a young man who told me his entire future was tied to the success of a business he built with a partner he trusted completely. He believed that as long as they worked together, the dream would unfold just as they planned. But when the business hit its first serious challenge, his partner withdrew mentally and emotionally, leaving him to carry the weight alone. He said something I will never forget. "I didn't just lose a partner. I realized I had been outsourcing my confidence to him. I trusted him more than I trusted myself." That realization was painful, but it was also transformative. Because sometimes life must take away what you lean on so you can finally learn to stand on your own strength. Trust is not the problem. Blind trust is. Automatic trust is. Trust without boundaries, without observation, without discernment. That is where people get hurt. But self-belief, on the other hand, is not something that can betray you. You may doubt yourself at times, but your inner strength will never disappear without your permission. Belief is something you can rebuild. It grows as you grow. It evolves as you evolve. It is the root system beneath every meaningful achievement. You can collaborate with others, you can be supported by others, but the moment you rely on someone else more than yourself is the moment you surrender control of your own potential. Think for a moment about the people you've admired, the ones who built something from nothing, who rose from situations that looked impossible, who transformed their lives despite overwhelming odds. If you listen carefully to their stories, you'll notice a pattern. It wasn't that they trusted the right person at the right time. It wasn't even that they had a perfect support system. It was that somewhere deep inside, even if it was small and faint at first, they believed in their ability to climb, adapt, grow, and persevere. That belief guided their decisions, fueled their resilience, and kept them going when circumstances gave them every reason to stop. They understood that self-belief is the anchor in storms and the compass when the path is unclear. Trust will always have a place in your life, but it should never outrank your belief in yourself. You can trust people to join you, but not to carry you. You can trust people to walk beside you, but not to replace the work you must do within. The moment you understand the true difference between trusting others and believing in yourself, you begin stepping into a life built on personal power rather than borrowed certainty. Self-belief is a skill, not a gift. One of the greatest misconceptions people carry is the idea that self-belief is something you're born with, as if confidence is a genetic lottery. Some win it, others don't. But that belief is not only false, it is damaging. It convinces people that their potential is fixed, that their confidence has already been decided by circumstances they cannot control. Self-belief is not inherited, it is developed. It is shaped by actions, choices, and experiences. It grows through practice, just like strength grows through repeated effort in the gym. Every ounce of confidence you admire in someone else was built, not bestowed. And once you understand that, you realize you have the power to build your own. Think about athletes. No one expects a person to lift a heavy weight on their first attempt. They start with what they can manage, and as they show up consistently, their muscles adapt and their capacity increases. Confidence works the same way. The people who appear naturally confident are often the ones who have taken years of small steps, pushed through small fears, and accumulated small victories. Those victories add up until their belief in themselves becomes solid and unshakable. It was not a gift, it was repetition. It was commitment. It was choosing courage in moments when doubt seemed louder. Research in psychology supports this. Studies show that confidence grows less from dramatic achievements and more from what are called micro wins. Small tasks completed consistently. Waking up when you say you will. Finishing a project you promised yourself. Showing up for a workout instead of making an excuse. These small acts quietly reinforce a powerful message inside you. I can rely on myself. And each time you prove you can rely on yourself, your belief grows stronger. It doesn't feel dramatic, but it accumulates like compound interest. Over time, it becomes the foundation for larger risks, larger decisions, and larger achievements. Many people wait for self-belief to magically appear before taking action. They say things like, once I feel confident, then I'll start, or when I'm ready, I'll take the next step. But confidence does not come before action. Action creates confidence. You cannot think your way into self-belief. You must act your way into it. Every time you do something you didn't think you could, you expand your sense of what's possible. It's often the tasks that scare you the most that contribute the most to your growth because they prove that fear does not dictate your decisions. Consider someone who wants to start a business but feels they are not the type of person who succeeds. They assume successful people were fearless from day one. But if you speak to entrepreneurs, you will hear a different truth. Most of them began with uncertainty, insecurity, even fear, but they moved anyway. They made small commitments, took small steps, made small decisions until those small decisions became confidence. The difference wasn't natural talent, it was willingness to begin imperfectly and improve consistently. Self-belief also demands self-discipline. You cannot believe in yourself if you constantly break promises to yourself. Every time you say you will do something and don't follow through, it chips away at your confidence. It communicates to your mind that you are not reliable. But when you follow through, especially on the hard days, you build evidence that you are someone worth believing in. That evidence becomes a shield against doubt. Life will always give you opportunities to question yourself. Challenges will come. People will criticize. Circumstances will change. But when you have built self-belief through intentional action, none of those things can dismantle you. You may stumble, but you won't collapse. You may doubt, but you won't quit. You will have built a core of inner strength that reminds you, I have overcome before, I can overcome again. And that is the gift you give yourself, not one you were handed, but one you earned through courage, consistency, and commitment. Don't outsource your direction. One of the most subtle and damaging habits people develop is the habit of outsourcing their direction in life. They hand their sense of purpose to someone else. They wait for approval before they take their first step. They seek permission to pursue their dreams. They rely on someone else's vision when they should be building their own. And the danger in this is not always obvious at first. It often starts with good intentions. You want guidance, you want support, you want someone to reassure you that you're on the right path. You look to parents, friends, partners, mentors, or society to define what's acceptable or achievable for you. But slowly, without realizing it, you begin to shrink your dreams to fit someone else's comfort. You start living according to expectations instead of aspirations. And one day, you wake up and feel disconnected from your own life because you're following a map that someone else drew. People do this because it feels safer to follow than to lead. Leading your own life means taking responsibility for your decisions, your mistakes, your detours, and your progress. And responsibility, while empowering, can feel heavy at first. It's much easier to say, tell me what to do, or tell me if this is right, or tell me I'm good enough before I begin. But the moment you rely on someone else to define your worth, your direction, or your destiny, you surrender your power. You place your life in hands that may not understand your vision, your talent, your drive, or your inner calling. Nobody, no matter how close they are to you, can hear the whisper inside your soul as clearly as you can. Think of how many dreams have been paused or abandoned because someone said, that's not realistic, or you should play it safe, or people like you don't succeed in that field. Sometimes these comments come from love, sometimes from fear, sometimes from misunderstanding, but the effect is the same. When you allow those opinions to steer you, you begin living a smaller version of who you are meant to become. One of the great tragedies is not a life that fails, but a life that never begins because its direction was surrendered to someone who could not see what you saw. There's a common pattern among people who rise to extraordinary levels of success. They reach a moment in their life where they stop waiting for approval and start listening to their own inner compass. They may still accept advice, they may still learn from mentors, but they no longer hand over the steering wheel. They recognize that while people can offer opinions, only they can feel the pull of their purpose. They understand that the voice inside them is not random, it is guiding them toward the life they are meant to build. I once heard a story about a young woman who wanted to pursue a creative career, something artistic, expressive, unconventional. But everyone around her insisted she choose something practical, something stable. For years, she followed the path others recommended, and although she succeeded on paper, she felt hollow inside. Her direction was never her own. It was borrowed, shaped by fear instead of passion. It wasn't until she finally asked herself, if no one had an opinion about my life, what would I choose, that she discovered her true path. That question forced her to reclaim her direction, and once she did, her life transformed. Not because someone guided her, but because she guided herself. When you don't choose your direction, life chooses it for you. And life rarely chooses the path that fulfills you. It chooses the path that demands the least resistance. But fulfillment doesn't come from easy paths. It comes from honest ones. To live a life of meaning, you must take ownership of where you are going, even if that means going against the grain, facing uncertainty, or disappointing people who expected something different from you. The moment you stop outsourcing your direction is the moment you begin to experience true empowerment, true alignment, and true identity. People can support you, but they cannot save you. There comes a moment in every person's life when they must confront a truth that is both liberating and uncomfortable. People can walk with you, but they cannot walk for you. They can offer support, encouragement, and comfort, but they cannot carry the responsibility of your dreams, your growth, or your transformation. And yet, so many people make the mistake of believing that someone else will rescue them from their struggles, their insecurities, or their disappointments. They wait for the perfect mentor, the ideal partner, the right team, or the magical opportunity that will lift them out of difficulty and place them into success. But life does not work that way. Support is valuable, but salvation is internal. From childhood, many are conditioned to believe that someone wiser, stronger, or more experienced will guide them through every challenge. Parents help with problems, teachers provide instructions, and friends offer comfort. But as life grows more complex, the challenges become more personal, deeper, and more connected to your identity. These challenges require decisions only you can make. No one else can heal the parts of you that you avoid. No one else can develop the discipline you choose to skip. No one else can break your bad habits, build your confidence, or rewrite the story you tell yourself when no one is listening. Others can influence you, but they cannot transform you. You may have people who love you deeply, people who want the best for you, people who cheer for you from the sidelines. But even they cannot save you from the discomfort of growth. They cannot take the test for you, face the fear for you, or silence the doubts that rise inside your mind at midnight. That inner work belongs to you alone. Some people spend years searching for someone to complete them, to validate them, to fix the parts of their lives they feel incapable of handling. They believe a relationship will heal their insecurities, or a mentor will erase their confusion, or a successful friend will open every door. But that belief is a form of self-abandonment. It places your future in someone else's hands, and even the most loving hands will eventually falter because your journey is not their responsibility. Think about the people you admire, athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, creators. Every one of them had support systems, yes, but none of them succeeded because someone saved them. They succeeded because they took ownership of their potential. They did the work when no one was watching. They pushed through the moments when quitting felt easier. Support helped them, but it was their internal commitment that carried them. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is recognizing that the people around you are there to enhance your journey, not replace your responsibility within it. There's a story about a man who constantly switched jobs, hoping each new opportunity would finally fix his circumstances. Each time he believed the new boss, the new team, or the new environment would turn everything around for him. But after every change, he found himself facing the same frustrations. Eventually, he realized the common denominator wasn't the job, it was him. He had been expecting external change to compensate for internal habits he refused to confront. The day he stopped waiting for someone to push him forward was the day his life started to move. People cannot save you because your life's meaning is built from the inside out. Growth is uncomfortable, and most will try to shield you from discomfort because they care. But the very struggles they want to save you from are the ones that shape you. Support gives you strength, but taking responsibility gives you transformation. The moment you accept that no one can live your life for you, something shifts inside you. You start stepping into your role as the creator of your journey rather than a passenger hoping someone else will steer. Use setbacks as proof of your strength. Setbacks are one of the most misunderstood experiences in a person's life. Most people see them as signs of failure, as evidence that they are not capable, not talented, not destined for more. They view setbacks as insults from life rather than invitations to grow. But the truth is far more empowering. Setbacks are not proof of your weakness. They are proof of your strength. They reveal what you are made of. They show how much you can endure, how much you can rise from, and how deep your resilience truly runs. You may not notice it in the moment because pain has a way of clouding perception, but every struggle you survive becomes evidence that you are stronger than you believe. Think back to a moment in your life that nearly broke you. It might have been a heartbreak, a financial collapse, a betrayal, a lost opportunity, or a mistake that felt impossible to recover from. You may have cried, questioned yourself, or felt like your world was falling apart. But here you are. You survived, you adapted, you continued forward, even if the steps were small or slow. That alone is proof of strength, proof you rarely give yourself credit for. Instead of acknowledging that you endured something heavy, you focus on the pain rather than the resilience it awakened inside you. But endurance is not weakness. Endurance is strength in motion. Most people admire strength in others, but they fail to recognize it in themselves. They see someone who overcame adversity and say, wow, they're so strong, without realizing they have been overcoming adversity their entire lives. Every disappointment you've bounced back from, every difficulty you've learned your way through, and every time you kept going when giving up felt easier, you were demonstrating strength, even if you didn't label it that way. Setbacks are simply a magnifying glass, showing you what has already been inside you all along. Life has a way of revealing your inner capacity through challenges. When things go wrong, when plans fall apart, when people walk away, when circumstances change without warning, these moments test your character. They test your patience, your discipline, your emotional courage, and your self-belief. You discover who you really are not when everything is easy, but when everything is uncertain. That is where strength is formed. That is where identity is built. That is where resilience becomes your teacher. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing setbacks mean stop. They interpret obstacles as signs that the path is wrong or the dream is unrealistic. But obstacles do not block the path. They are the path. They shape you for the journey ahead. They teach you the skills, perspective, and resolve you will need later. Some of the greatest achievements in history were born from moments of failure. Entire breakthroughs were created because someone hit a wall, fell down, or made a mistake that forced them to see the world differently. Setbacks redirect your strategies, but not your destiny. There is a story of a woman who lost her job and felt her entire world collapsing. She questioned her worth and feared she had ruined her future. But losing that job pushed her to develop skills she had been avoiding. It forced her to step outside her comfort zone, start her own business, and discover abilities she didn't know she possessed. Years later, she looked back and realized the setback she feared was the very thing that gave her the life she always wanted. What she once labeled as a failure was actually a turning point that revealed her strength, her creativity, and her potential. Setbacks also teach humility and perspective. They remind you that growth is not linear and that strength is not measured by how perfectly you perform, but by how courageously you rise. Pain stretches you. Challenges refine you. Uncertainty strengthens your faith in yourself. The very moments that feel like breaking points become the moments that define you. And if you look closely, you will see that every setback you've ever faced has left you wiser, more capable, and more courageous than before. Set standards for who gets your trust. Trust is one of the most valuable forms of currency you possess, yet many people spend it carelessly, handing it out without thought, without evaluation, and without understanding the cost. Trust shapes the relationships you build, the decisions you make, and the direction of your life. But unlike money, once trust is broken, it rarely returns in the same form. This is why setting standards for who earns your trust is not a sign of paranoia or coldness. It is a sign of self-respect. It means you value your peace, your energy, and your path too much to place them in the hands of people who have not demonstrated the character to protect them. Too often, people trust out of hope instead of observation. They trust someone because they want that person to be reliable, loyal, consistent, or supportive. But hope is not evidence. Hope is emotional. Trust must be earned through action. Some individuals show you who they are very early on, but you overlook the signs because you are in a hurry to connect, to bond, to feel understood, or to avoid loneliness. Yet ignoring red flags doesn't make them disappear. It only delays the lessons they will inevitably teach you. Setting standards is not about judging others harshly. It's about protecting your future from unnecessary pain. Trust should not be granted based on charm, similarity, or shared interests alone. The real measure of trustworthiness lies in consistency. Does the person do what they say? Do they show up when it matters? Do their actions match their promises? Anyone can impress you in the beginning. Anyone can say the right words, present the right image, or play the right role. But consistency cannot be faked. If someone's behavior shifts depending on convenience, mood, or circumstance, that is not trustworthiness, that is instability. And building your life around instability will eventually shake your foundation. Another key standard is integrity. Not perfection, not flawlessness, but integrity. Look at how someone treats people who have nothing to offer them. Look at how they handle pressure, temptation, or conflict. People reveal their values not in their victories, but in their challenges. Someone who speaks kindly of you but gossips about everyone else will eventually gossip about you too. Someone who cuts corners when no one is watching will eventually cut corners in your relationship as well. Someone who disrespects boundaries will eventually disrespect yours. Integrity is not optional when it comes to trust. It is essential. There is also the matter of emotional safety. Trusting someone with your feelings, your dreams, and your vulnerabilities is a deep form of intimacy. You deserve people who handle that responsibility with care, not people who weaponize your honesty or use it against you. If someone makes you second guess your worth, feel small, or question your instincts, they have not earned the right to your trust. Your emotions are not a playground. They are a reflection of your humanity. Sharing them should never lead to regret. It is equally important to recognize that trust should be earned slowly. You do not need to rush connection. You do not need to prove your loyalty to someone who hasn't shown theirs. Take your time. Observe more than you disclose. People reveal who they are over time through patterns, habits, decisions, and reactions. Give yourself the patience to watch those patterns before handing over access to your heart or your life. You can be kind, open, and compassionate while still maintaining boundaries. Boundaries do not push good people away. They push uncommitted people away. Setting standards for trust doesn't mean you expect perfection. It means you expect respect. It means you want relationships that uplift you instead of drain you, partnerships that support your growth instead of stunt it, and friendships that add value instead of confusion. When you raise your standards, you don't lose people. You lose the ones who were never meant to stay. And the ones who remain are the ones who truly deserve a place in your life. The moment everything changes, every person reaches a pivotal moment in their life when something shifts inside them. Quietly, subtly, sometimes painfully, but undeniably. It is a moment when the excuses no longer comfort you, when the old patterns no longer satisfy you, when the story you've been telling yourself begins to feel too small for the life you know you're capable of living. This moment rarely looks dramatic on the outside. There is no spotlight, no applause, no announcement. Often it happens in the middle of an ordinary day, in a quiet room, or in the stillness of the night when you are forced to confront yourself without distractions. It is the moment you stop waiting for someone to transform your life and realize the power to change has been inside you all along. For many people, this shift happens after years of living beneath their potential. They follow routines that drain their energy, relationships that diminish their fire, and expectations that suffocate their individuality. They become experts at pleasing others and amateurs at honoring themselves. And little by little, they lose touch with who they truly are. But even during those years, something inside them keeps whispering, "There is more for you than this." The whisper is easy to ignore at first, buried under fear, doubt, and the desire to avoid discomfort. But it grows louder with every disappointment, every broken promise, every moment they feel out of place in their own life. The moment everything changes is rarely caused by an external event. It is caused by an internal decision. Something inside you decides that staying the same is more painful than changing. Something inside you realizes that waiting is no longer an option. You stop hoping someone will give you permission. You stop assuming the timing must be perfect. You stop believing you need to be ready. You finally see that the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the belief that someone else must lead you to it. And when that belief collapses, a new version of you begins to rise. There's a story of a woman who spent years waiting for the right opportunity, the right partner, the right motivation, the right moment to begin her dream. She convinced herself that once everything aligned, she would finally take action. But life does not hand out perfect timing, and her circumstances remained unchanged. One morning, she woke up with a heaviness she couldn't ignore. She realized she had been postponing her life, shrinking her potential, and wasting her energy on things that did not fulfill her. And in that moment, she asked herself a question that became the turning point. What if I stopped waiting? That question didn't solve all her problems, but it dismantled the biggest barrier, her hesitation. This kind of moment feels like a spark, small but powerful. It doesn't remove fear, but it gives you the courage to move despite fear. It doesn't erase uncertainty, but it strengthens your desire to step into uncertainty anyway. It doesn't make the road easy, but it makes the road yours. And when something becomes yours, you fight for it differently. The moment everything changes is the moment you stop giving your circumstances the authority to define you. Maybe you grew up in a difficult environment. Maybe you were underestimated. Maybe you were hurt. Maybe you failed more times than you can count. But when the inner shift happens, you realize none of those things determine who you are becoming. You are not confined by your past. You are fueled by it. You stop letting people's doubts shape your decisions. You stop letting fear dictate your pace. You stop seeking validation for dreams that only you were meant to understand. This shift is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not celebrated. But it is powerful because it marks the beginning of your ownership, your growth, and your awakening. It is the moment you rise from who you were into who you choose to become.